Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome dear students. This is a video for the subject of education for the course of Bachelor's in Education and for the paper of Conceptual Foundations of Education. This video is based on sociological basis of education, and in this lecture we will discuss about social change. This video has been recorded by Dr. Iram Khan. The course coordinator and the presenter of this video is Dr. Iram Khan from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. The academic expert or the reviewer of this video is Professor Jasim Ahmed from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. This video is produced under the project DTH Swayam Prabha channels of Ministry of Education, Government of India. Hello dear students, I am Dr. Iram Khan, Assistant Professor at Institute of Advanced Studies in Education, Department of Teachers Training and Non-Formal Education, Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Today we are going to have a discussion on sociological basis of education, and in this lecture we will be discussing about social change. The objectives of this session are to discuss the meaning and concept of social change, then to elaborate the factors determining social change, and to delineate the factors influencing social change. So first of all, let us see the meaning of social change. What exactly we mean by social change? Social means concerning to the society, and change means deviation from existing pattern. So in this way, we can say that social change means change in the structure and functions of human society. And we all know that human life is not at all static. It is under a constant change in the ideas, the attitudes, and values of every individual. This changing process brings changes in the social structure and in other social attributes too. This process may be rapid in some societies and it may be slow in the case of different other societies. But we can't say that any of these societies are not undergoing any sort of changes. So in the world, no society can escape from this process of change and also the process of transformation. So let us just have a look on our own Indian society. Things and objects which we use today were never ever even dreamt in our earlier days, or maybe our forefathers, our ancestors would have never ever thought of these things which we are using nowadays, those gadgets, those machines, even the forms of transportation, the vehicles which we are using nowadays, the entertainment devices, the communication devices, the mobile phones, and rest of those equipment which we are using nowadays, very commonly and very naturally, never ever would have thought of maybe 100 years ago. So we can't say that nothing has been changed. A lot of things have got changed. Not only this, new problems and challenges are now confronting the human beings in all fields of life, and human mind is endeavoring to find the solutions of all these problems which we are encountering through different forms of researches, different type of investigations, discoveries, and we try to up to date our knowledge, the pattern of our life through different type of inventions. We all are seeing that how we all are being suffered with this coronavirus, and every single nation is right now thinking of developing or inventing or discovering some sort of solution for this problem of coronavirus, to get a vaccine or to develop some sort of drug so that we can have a cure of this epidemic. So all styles of living are changing, and it's changing so fast. And with all those things which are happening nowadays, we are we are actually trying to keep our pace with the changing ideas and the changing world, the beliefs, the lifestyles, and the material pursuits uh, of uh, of our day-to-day life for our own welfare, human beings' welfare. So this change in social structure is basically known as the social change, which is the topic of today's discussion. How this social change is impacting us, how it is actually very important for our lives. So we will discuss all these things in detail. We will also see that how the social change is making a kind of impact on the educational system as well. The people who are related to the education and the education of the students and uh, the people who are very much attached to the system which is imparting education, how this social change is making sort of impact on all of these people. So let us see few of the definitions of social change given by some of the eminent sociologists. The first definition is of Sir Jones. He says that social change is a term used to describe variation in or modification of any aspects of social processes, social interactions, or social organization. Quotes close. The other definition is given by Gillen and Gillen, and I quote: social changes are variations from the accepted modes of life, whether due to alterations in geographic conditions, in cultural equipment, composition of the population, or ideologies, and whether brought about by diffusion or invention within the group. Quotes close. So this definition by Gillen and Gillen is very important, which actually tells us about that how all those conditions in which we are in, be it geographic, be it cultural, or any type of, actually is very much empowering and brings some sort of change in our lives. Let us have a look that what exactly is this concept of social change, because the first thing which we need to do is to understand that what exactly the concept of social change is all about, how it is very much important to see that how these things which are changing in our lives are very much important. The first assumption, or the first you can say the explanation of social change which I would like to mention is by Brown. According to Brown, there is no difference between social change and cultural change. Both are interrelated in the sense that cultural change is an important part of social change. So, according to him, basically, he says that both are the same. Social change and the cultural change, both are the same, because basically both of them are interrelated and they impact a lot. They put on some sort of impact on each other. Then the next explanation is given by Spencer. According to Spencer, social change and social evaluation are identical. According to him, he says that social change are uniform. All these changes which are happening as social changes are uniform, gradual, and progressive. Then Spencer further elaborates, or he points out that as we progress from less painful position to more comfortable positions, the process of social changes also undergo the essential stages of evaluation. So basically, he says that human being is tried basically in the process of trying to get to the comfortable positions. And in order to attain a comfortable position, people undergo different sort of changes, and these changes are prolonged until and unless the person, the human being, attains the comfortable position. Then there is a next assumption, or you can say the explanation of social change, which I wish to mention, is by Ogburn. What exactly Ogburn mentions? According to him, there is no distinction between social change and cultural change. So we can see that he is also having the same opinion as we have seen, as opined by Brown. But let us just have a look at what exactly is the difference between the assumption of Brown and the assumption of Ogburn. So, according to Ogburn, there is no distinction between social change and cultural change. He advocates two forms of culture, which are, the first one is material and the other one is non-material. By this material culture, he actually wants to say that this material culture is concerned with all those things and objects which humans or human beings have made for their own welfare and happiness. For example, different sources, different type of equipment which are used for telecommunication or entertainment, like radio, television, mobile phones, any sort of means of transport and communication. So these are few of those examples of those man-made devices which human beings have developed for the sake of his or her own concern or own convenience. So in this connection, if we go ahead and see that what exactly is this non-material culture, basically the non-material culture is concerned with human ideas, various type of attitudes, values, morals, different habits, different customs, traditions, and even the mentalities. So Ogburn here stresses on, or he asserts, that first the change occurs in the material culture and then in the non-material. So the aspect of materialism or the material culture is first addressed, and then we go ahead and address the non-material culture. So when the material culture changes uh, and this non-material thing is remaining unchanged, there is something which is lagging behind, and the culture basically lags, or some sort of cultural lag occurs. So that's why we go ahead and make some sort of change in the non-material culture also. Indian society is an example of cultural lag, because here we can see that a lot of changes or advancements have been happened or are happening in the material sort, but we still have to work on our different non-material aspects of our culture. So education is the only means, we can say here, which can remove this cultural lag. This cultural lag, which is due to the this not taking much interest in the development of the non-material aspects of our culture. So we can say that education is something which is going to help us out in developing our non-material culture also. Then the next point is the factors that determine social change. What are these factors? Social change is a continuous process. We have already discussed this earlier, that our society is not static at all, and we undergo a lot of changes as soon as we move ahead in our life. So social change is a continuous process. There are some important factors which help this process of social change. So what are these factors? Let us just have a look. So the first one here is the physical environment. Then the second one is the scientific inventions and researches. The third one is interdynamics. So let us just have a look at what exactly these three factors are all about. We have also discussed the assumption of Ogburn, how he mentioned the material and non-material aspects of culture. So let us just have a look at what exactly these factors are all about. So as we have seen that Ogburn says that social change first occurs in the material culture and then in the non-material culture. But if we see what exactly Ottaway holds, he actually mentions that these cultural changes do not take place one after the other, but it is a product of the interdynamics of the two. What are these two? The material and the non-material. So Ottaway has clearly stated that social and cultural changes occur because of the interaction of technological researches or the scientific interventions or the scientific discoveries, inventions, and the ideals, the values, and the aims of society. So in this way, we can say that social change occurs through the interaction of technological techniques and social values. So these two things, once they integrate, they make an interaction between the two, then only we can find that some sort of social change is happening. So both the elements are essential. What are these elements? The material and the non-material elements. Any one of them without the other will not bring about any social change. These factors, which we can name as technology, techniques, values, play an essential role in any social change. It is necessary to understand the meaning and significance of all these words, because until we understand the meaning, these will be just words for us. So technology is the branch of science which develops various type of techniques, various types of discoveries and inventions. So techniques are those means which fulfill various basic needs of human beings in a society, because we all are depending on the fulfillment of our basic needs first, then only we can go ahead and um, occupy some other sort of things which are useful in our life. So first of all, the basic need, the food, the shelter, and the clothing, all these basic needs should be fulfilled, and the technology is helping us out to fulfill our basic need, because we all know that first, uh, earlier we were in the when we were in the ancient times, even the basic needs were not being fulfilled for human beings. And then as soon as we went ahead and we came into the agrarian society, and then we went on and occupied the industrial society status, most of our basic needs were uh, being fulfilled by the advancements in the industry and the technology sector. So in this case, we can say that the values are those objectives, the beliefs, thoughts, and the abstract concepts which make human life dynamic, successful, and some sort of purpose is added to human life. Then only we can say that we are humans and we serve a bigger purpose. Then all these things which we are discussing, it is becoming very much clear by these discussions that the technological techniques alone or the values in themselves cannot bring about any real social change. They have to come hand in hand. Both of the things are important for bringing a social change. It cannot also be determined definitely that which one of these two, the technological advancements or the value system, uh, has a greater share in achieving social change. Basically, we cannot compare. In fact, when technology changes, it affects change in values. And when values change, they bring out the corresponding change in technology. So both are interdependent, and we cannot separate each other, and we cannot say that this one is important and this one is less important. So in this way, technological techniques as well as values are both the essential basis of social change. Both are equally important and essential for human lives. Both actively interact and bring about social change. So this is something which we have to always think of whenever we are thinking of about some sort of technological advancement. We have to see that what are those value systems which are enshrined, what are those things which are going to be the byproduct of these technological advancements, which are going to impact our society. We have discussed about that what are those factors which promote social changes, but still there are some factors which resist the social change. And what are those factors who resist social change are also very much important to discuss. So let us see that what are those important resisting forces to social change. The first one is the cultural inertia. What exactly it means? The cultural inertia is the first important factor which basically resists the social change. It refers to those blind beliefs, customs, and traditions which come down to us from our ancestors and which we stick to very much rigidly and blindly, thinking them as sacred and indelible. Now, the point is that at that time, when those practices were being undergone, there would be some reason behind, or there would be some certain circumstances. Due to those circumstances, those beliefs, those customs or traditions would have been introduced into the system. But when we are in today's scenario, those beliefs and those traditions would be not that much, you can say that important or that much relevant to the scenario, but still, just because it's a customary this thing or it's a tradition, we are sticking with those things. So this rigid, conservative, and narrow outlook makes us static and averse to any change. The outcome of this inertia is that our society remains backward in many respects, and an kind of aversion to the modernization is evident. We can see that we deny to go ahead and make changes, and we resist to the process of modernization. Though modernization cannot be said that everything which is the component of modernization is good, but we have to go ahead and see that what are those things which are going to make some sort of development in our society, and we have to make changes in our belief system in order to attain the newly or modernized techniques. So education should break this inertia and this sort of rigidity, because education brings logical thinking, creativity, and some sort of understanding that what is right and what is wrong. The next point, which can be considered as the resisting factor, is fear of, or you can say, going ahead and checking out new things. So fear of new things. What exactly this fear of new things is? This you can say that is the second factor for the resistance of social change. Some minds are always very apprehensive and doubtful about any change. We can find a lot of people in our society who, without thinking of or without making any second thought, they deny for any sort of change. So according to Ogburn and Nimkoff, most of the people show a tendency to stick to traditional routine life and are therefore averse to gain anything new, for fear that all these new elements may not turn to be very much useful for them. They think of that these new elements may be bringing of some sort of harm or injury to them. So they are contented. These people who are not accepting the change, they are contented with the status quo. the present state of affairs and are always praising the old traditional patterns of thinking and behavior. So these people always deny to go ahead and adopt any sort of new technique. We can see these examples everywhere. We just have to look around and we will find a lot of people who are believing in the status quo, and they don't go ahead and accept any change very easily. So this tendency needs to be changed through education. Only then any social change will be welcomed and adopted by general people, by our society. Uh, then only we can say that our society is becoming a progressive society and we are accepting changes. Then the next point is different sort of vested interests. Vested interests are very important to address. Basically, here it is the third factor which resists social change, and we can find this that in general we can observe that there are some old traditions and beliefs which satisfy the vested interests of a few uh, privileged sections of society. Such people with vested interests resist any change because of the danger or because of the sort of fear to their self-interest. They don't allow to make any change because they think that their vested interest is going to be like they are not going to get fulfill their vested interest. So in different words, if we want to see this, people having vested interest uh, resist the social change in a very strong way. Education is the only means to sublimate self-interest and make them welcome any social change. If we educate them that this change which we are going to bring is going to be useful for them as well as other components of the society. So if they get educated, they get this sort of understanding with them, there is a possibility that they leave their vested interest and they accept the change which is going to happen for the good of the society. Then the next point is the degree of isolation. What exactly it means? Basically, degree of isolation is the fourth factor which resists social change. There are some people in our society who refuse to come into contact with persons of other cultures. This is something which is very much evident, and we can find it if we cross borders of one state to another. We will find this very much happening. So they try their best to remain in isolation and insulate from other influences. They don't find the other cultures or other things which are being done by other societies very much useful or appreciable. So these people who don't allow the other cultures or other influences to come and influence them, these people resist any kind of social change. For example, let's take the example of the backward communities and the tribal groups. You can't say that they are backward just because of their caste or creed. No, they are not allowed to um, or they are not allowed to come and get in contact with the society. Basically, they resist. At times, they resist any outside contact, which is which they find that is a kind of danger for their self sustenance. And this approach, narrow thought process, at times restricts their development. And we can find this type of processes happening in our country. So by educating them, we have to make them accept all those things which are for their good. The Indian society and social change. How we can discuss this? Let us just see that what is the structure of our society because we have got independence in 1947, and before getting independent status from the Britishers, we were having some sort of areas in which we were not getting any development done. So we were basically having all those things, those areas underdeveloped. But after getting independence, we become free, and our constitution guaranteed full freedom to all citizens, irrespective of their color, their caste, creed, or gender or sex. So, our national government has enacted laws against untouchability or any kind of social and economic discrimination. It's very well enshrined in the constitution of our country. So, we are pledged to have a democratic socialist republic for the welfare, social justice, and equality to all, based on the idea of brotherhood. Not only this, our national government has enacted laws to promote different type of uh, social ailments like widow marriage, then securing uh, the rights of the divorced women, and against dowry. So these were the social discrimination which were hampering the progress of women in our country. So these hampering things or discriminations actually block development. But we have to go ahead and just rule out all those things from our society. Then only the entire section of societies are going to get a lot of things which will be helpful for their development. The government machinery strive to promote economic development of all the individuals within their area of work. Social legislation provides protection, training, and livelihood to abundant females and also the males. But because females are at times considered as the underprivileged section, uh, that's why ladies and females are much more emphasized here. So these abundant ladies and the reformatories to cure the younger section of our society, the young ones, against the criminal tendencies. It's very much important to make some sort of development for them. So the government is wedding to the idea of universal, free, and compulsory education up to the primary standard, and is doing its utmost to provide varied educational facilities. Basically, not only primary, because the Right to Education Act allows us free and compulsory education up to the elementary level or till the 8th standard. So at times we call it as upper primary also, but the correct uh, term will be elementary level. So the educational facilities which government is trying to provide to every boy and girl of our country will be very much helpful in terms of getting them educated. And once they will get educated, then they will be uh, the part of making change or getting developed. So a lot of different ambitious projects, like different projects which are being launched by the government in terms of education of adults, and even there are various schemes and different sort of things which are being launched for the education and welfare of the citizens of our country, is just to make them educated and to bring them into the mainstream where they find them also the part of the entire development process. So all these efforts which the national government or even the state government is taking or is undergoing in our society itself, it shows the sign of awakening and striving to achieve more and more progress in various fields of social life. The caste isolation is decaying gradually. We can find that people are now coming out of this stigma of the casteism, or going and getting ahead with these type of things which are discriminatory in our society. So caste isolation is decaying in our society. Feelings of untouchability and hatred are being removed by education at a rapid speed, and this is something which is very much important task of education. The movement of women liberation from the bonds and restrictions uh, is gaining ground, and all blind beliefs, different type of customs and traditions are gradually dying out under the light of reason and modernity. Even the remotest corners of our country are responding to the light of education. Uh, they are trying to uplift and reform themselves. So, in spite of all these efforts of the government and the people, we as a society are still backward and need revolutionary reforms in all fields of our life. This is something which is very much to be addressed by everybody, and every single citizen has to think of that what exactly we can do in order to bring change in our lives and the lives of the others who are surrounding us. uh, it can be seen that the main cause of backwardness of our society, our countries, our Indian society, is lack of education and moral values, which result in frequent caste, communal, and language conflicts. So there is all-round poverty, economic, um, uh, and social and moral degradations which are striking out. Then there are certain things or certain areas where we find nepotism and favoritism and corruption. Uh, and we can find all these things almost everywhere in our society, be it the social front or the political front, or the economic, or the national life. So social thinkers and reformers always try to devise means to stem these degradations and find solutions of the multitude of problems which are happening in our society, which are existing in our society. So in this connection, one thing is very much clear and universally accepted, that education for all at all levels and ages of children is the only remedy to meet these challenges and bring about the desired social change in Indian society. And for this sole purpose, uh, there are a lot of social engineers who are, these people are those citizens who are uh, day and night working on thinking of that how we can educate each and every child of our country. So we have to remove the ignorance, and we have to bring our children towards the light of education, and then only national welfare and the national glory uh, can be brought to our country, because we have to become the global citizen, and in order to become a global citizen we have to educate each and every child of our country. Let us summarize what we have studied here in this lecture. We have seen the meaning of social change, which occurs in our society. We have also seen the concept of social change, and we have seen those thought processes which are mentioned by Brown, Spencer, Ogburn, and we have also seen that what exactly they say or they have opined about social change. Then we have seen the factors that determine social change. These factors are physical environment, the scientific inventions, and the interdynamics. We have then seen the factors which are considered to be resisting to the social change. And what are those? Those are the cultural inertia, fear of new things, vested interests, degree of isolation, and many more. We have also seen the Indian society and the social change, how the Indian society is responding towards social change. And we hope that our country is going to have the social change in a very positive manner, which makes it somehow the global leader, or you can say the foremost leader of this world in terms of providing a moral asset or educating the world in a positive way. So with these words, we will just have a look on that what exactly are those references and citations which can be helpful for you in order to have more knowledge. So these are those references and suggested readings which are used while developing this lecture, and you can also go ahead and learn more using these links. Dear students, you were watching a video on sociological basis of education, and this lecture talked about social change. This video lecture was recorded by faculty at home during the national lockdown period for COVID-19 pandemic using minimal technical resources. Technical errors, if any, are unintentional and may please be ignored. For any queries with regard to this lecture or broadcast, kindly send your email to techsupport@dth.ac.in. Thank you so much.